What's up, y'all? Today I'm gonna talk to you guys about um, two things. I'm gonna mesh two topics. Um, the one topic is gonna be telepathy or clairvoyance or telekinesis, and I'm gonna mesh it with my spiritual journey. So I'm gonna put it together. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about possession, channeling, voices, visions, and things of that nature. Now, as far as the reasoning behind me wanting to mesh these two topics is because it's not necessarily that I think, first of all, I think that telepathy, clairvoyance, telekinesis, um, I think it's a gift that we all are kind of born with. I think it's something that's linked to a lot of different things and different individuals, how it comes out. Um, I feel like that's why a lot of the research has been geared towards people who are autistic or have other um, diagnosis. I'll just leave it at that because I don't really think any of your dispositions or any of your what you're born with is necessarily a negative. I just think it's about the environment being able to support you or not, or you being able to grow and learn tools to operate in a world and a system that shocks your world and your system, like how you see things, how you perceive things. And I feel like a lot of people, obviously, a lot of people don't really understand telepathy or clairvoyance or telekinesis because these are things that are kind of just now getting more socially acceptable to recognize or talk about. It's not a new topic, but it's definitely becoming more acceptable and more mainstream. And right along with that is demonology, God, Jesus, the paranormal, the spiritual. Um, so I think if you're somebody who is aware of or you um, practice or you log your telekinesis, you log your clairvoyance, you log your telepathy and stuff of that nature. If you're somebody who's more aware of it, just like when I talked about in my other videos, if you got raised in a different belief system, right? So I got raised in a different belief system, and in my belief system, we didn't shun or call these gifts the devil's work. We called them gifts. And a lot of psychics have predicted a lot of things that have came true. A lot of psychics have assisted in investigations. A lot, you know what I mean? A lot of psychics, telepaths, clairvoyants, people of that nature. A lot of them have worked alongside the Vatican. They call them witches, but not everybody that has these abilities claims uh, Wicca or is practices any certain type of denomination. Just like some of them, believe were standard Catholics or Christians, and they call it God's voice. Like God spoke to me, God showed me things, God, you know what I mean. So it's just a matter of how you use your gifts, right? How you develop them. And you can be a dark leaning or a light leaning person, and regardless, that has no significance on what your gifts are. It's just a matter of how you're practicing, what's your intention, what's your will, what are you willing, what are you trying to will into existence, right? um what are you trying to see? So, and spiritual, the spiritual aspect of your life, at least for me, is something that is a struggle. Everybody goes through spiritual battles, personal battles, internal battles. Um, and I feel like it's just a lot of misunderstanding. You know what I mean? A lot of bad teaching. Um, a lot of schools and systems that were put into place that weren't put here to help these individuals thrive, which later became like social jealousy. But it's weird because it's like you don't need to be jealous of something that you have within you as well. It's just you told your brain for so long, and the people around you told you for so long that, this is fantasy, this isn't real, um this is knowledge seeking or witchcraft. You were told so many things to deny you of this, right? Or you'll have a lot of people, even in the Christian faith, who stake a claim of a prophet, and say that they have this vision, or they hear these voices that are telling them things. And usually before they come out and speak about it, they've seen some proofs. So most of the people that are coming out that want to tell people something or share something with somebody, it's something that they've been dealing with for a while. It's something that they've been noticing, and it finally reached the point where they're like, I got to say something. But then, like, society shuns you, or, next thing you know, you're sitting in front of a doctor getting prescribed medication, and down goes your life from that point, because you're being told something's wrong with you. You're living in fantasy, you're living in grandeur, like you're not in touch with reality, because you don't follow the system, you don't follow along, you speak to the gifts, you speak to the things that you possess. um Over my life, if I would have been recording everything that I've experienced, that I've predicted, that I've heard someone's thoughts, or and been able to prove it, you know what I mean? So these are things, the weather, the how animals are going to move around me, and all these different weird things that um I feel like most neurodivergent kids, or most people that are internal, that are kind of in their own little world, a lot of those kids have those experiences. They see these things, they notice these things, and they're not the ones who make them out to be a big deal. It's society denying these things that makes it blow up and makes it become grandiose. It's you trying to tell your system a lie when you know better. You know what you're seeing is bigger than you. You know what you're witnessing and what you're a part of is very real, you know. Um and for me personally, I've really noticed a huge uptick lately. I've noticed a huge uptick after I had children. Because then I started seeing it in them, and they started noticing it. And again, now they're growing up in a house that isn't gonna shame them or shun them or shoot them down. They're living under a house that is gonna work with them, right? They're living with parent that, hey, I know, you know what I mean? Like, I know, and I'm gonna foster that in you, you know. Um, I just feel like society has us convinced and accepting like a miserable, shallow existence, and not even realizing when we accept that that's what we're accepting. And then when we're miserable, or we're overstressed or overworked, or we don't really see any hope anywhere, and we're just kind of going through the motions, we ask ourselves why. Well, somebody came up to you and put your candle out a long time ago. Somebody came up to you and stole all your magic from you a long time ago. And you can wake back up. You can see. You can change. You can get it back. Do I feel like others, like certain individuals, are more gifted? Maybe. I mean, if we want to get into measuring, but it's not important. I don't want exclusion. I want an all-inclusive, because we know it's one consciousness, one world, one love, one God, one nation, There's spirits, there's demons, there's ghosts, there's all kinds of stuff we don't understand. There's aliens apparently now, UFOs. Like there's all kind of stuff that we don't understand, but we're never going to understand them if we stick our fingers in our ears and close our eyes and say, la, 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 none of it's real, none of it's there. You're not going to tell me that. So I'm hopeful, for the new generation, because I feel like a lot of people in this up and coming generation are starting to, I feel like because this is like kind of like a good thing about the internet is because of the internet, there's a bigger group that is going to agree with this belief a lot quicker than in the past when we didn't have this type of connection to one another. So if you're watching videos and all these videos and doctors and scientists are talking about these things, telepathy, clairvoyance, telekinesis, spirits, entities, life after death, your spirit force being something outside of you, and understanding these things, and the people that are coming up that are seeing all this content and exposure, it's a thumbs up, because it's a lot better. Like, then if there's that shred of doubt, you have something working against that shred of doubt now. So when you experience something, you're gonna be like, oh, that's weird, that's a nice little synchronicity. But then, like, day after day after day, all day long of synchronicity, you start to be like, okay, maybe there's something here, maybe there's something to all this. And then you go see another video or another doctor, and you're cementing your values and beliefs this way, right? So if you've cemented them for most of your life to believe that all these things are a lie and not possible, then you're working against something, but you're not working against the truth. You're working against yourself, because the truth is there. It's just a matter of how you want to explain it or accept it. And initially, when you were indoctrinated or conditioned, they worked against your beliefs right from the start. It's like how they say, like, children and pets are more susceptible. Like I talked about in my last video on this topic, they're more susceptible to see the supernatural, to interact with the other dimension or the spirit world. So if we don't crush that in them, who's to say where we'll go as a species? Who's to say or put limits on our advancement spiritually and mentally and physically, even in the way we view healing, in the way we view warfare, in the way we view everything we do, how we grow our crops, how we take care of our animals, how we give back to Mother Nature and Mother Earth, how we give back to our God by realizing our potential and realizing our gifts and returning to our good nature and our spiritual side, because that's all it is. I feel like, we spend most of our lives battling between our human element and our spiritual side. And alignment is just when you put those things together and your brain follows, right? That's how I view alignment. I view alignment as no more tug of war. Your human side aligns with your spiritual side as one. And then as the owner of your vessel, you get your mind more on track with this enmeshment between your soul and your flesh. When they become more alike, when your flesh and your spirit resemble more of one another than they do opposite, that's when you're reaching alignment. When your soul heals, when you tell yourself the truth instead of continuing to believe lies and cling to false beliefs and false ideology. So, and never am I attacking people's beliefs. I attack the things that the beliefs produce, if that makes sense. So to me, it's never a Christian that I'm coming for. It's the false practice, the hypocrisy, the predatory behaviors, right? And that man or that woman is just that at the end of the day. If you could take them in a room and strip them down to all their lies and expose the truth, you could return them right back to that title and they'd be 100 times better than they were when you took them in that room. And it's because it's conditioning that's going on for our entire existence, and it looks like we're losing the war, the spiritual war. It looks like we've lost a lot of ground. And I believe a lot of it is because we've denied these abilities, we've denied these gifts. And if I could explain it from my personal point of view, these gifts give me peace and hope, and when I'm seeing so much confirmation now of things that I held inside for so long, like, of course, yeah, like people close to me, like my mom, a couple relatives, my wife, my children, like these people have been witnesses. They've seen it, they've watched, they've participated. We've become a whole little walking experiment as far as these things go. And then you're watching progression. So I'm watching something that's always been in me go from, a small number to like rapid succession, where now it's like full walking. You know what I mean? So I've watched it grow in me just by creating a community and by having a family and by speaking to it, by trying to explain the things that my kids ask me questions about, that they go through, that they see. And instead of being the parent that ignores them or tells them that it's fantasy or carries it like a fantasy, I bring clarity, right? So then that way, when they get older and they grow up and they're having this war between the world that exists and the world that they feel like should exist naturally, they'll know to stand firm in who they are, what they believe in, what they know is true, what they've witnessed, what they've experienced, and they don't let that psyop take place where they take away your life and give you a shell, an empty shell, and say, you need to wear that if you want to be here. I never want that for my kids, so I want my children to live the life of discovery, exploration, adventure, journey. That's what we're here for. That's the beauty of life, in my personal opinion. Collaboration, creativity, working together, positivity, saving and attending to the things that we've neglected based upon systems and constructs and control and manipulation. So I feel like that's too. I feel like you're kind of seeing it across all grounds. Now, in a spiritual aspect, when you do have these gifts and you are aware of them and you do recognize that they're there, I feel like these gifts, like I said, they leave you susceptible to interactions with the spirit world. And knowing that, this is the part of the aspect that I don't necessarily share or speak to with my children, because there's a maturity level. So I'm teaching them things as they're growing up, what not to do, what to do, how to be, how not to be. I'm giving them room to make mistakes, mess up, struggle. But I'm not in a big hurry here. Like, I'm teaching them about God and to keep God forefront. And that's the difference. So when I got brought up in my belief system, how I got raised, um, I didn't understand the responsibility. I put it to you like that. So I didn't understand the responsibility. And due to my system that felt like I was living in a lie of a world, I became very depressive as an individual, just in general. I always felt like I had this dark type of an energy on my soul, on my back, on my head. And that started young. I was a child, you know. So, and my anger towards God, like I talked about in my other video, it grew very early. It didn't take a long time for that to start to grow. And it was fed by hypocrisy in the church, the hypocrisy and lies of our leaders, the pain and the suffering I witnessed and experienced. And these are the things that let it in. You know, I wrote a piece a while ago called Trauma Lets It In, and it was about dark forces and dark spirits. And much like in life, as a child, you might be battling these dark forces and it's not your fault. It's not you. But as you age, if you don't have a very good spiritual armor, and this is what I mean by always keeping God first, always keeping God in your work that you're doing, even if you are intrigued, even if you do want to prove something, you need to make sure that you're keeping your armor up, because you can't walk through the light if you aren't aware of the responsibility. Just like you can't come out of darkness if you're not willing to accept responsibility. So at some point, when you're traveling through this darkness, you'll reach a point in your life where you are about to become responsible and you're about to have to make some real decisions to choose your path. And it's all going into your spiritual bank. So every time you do something wrong, and I talked about in my video, like kids start to become responsible for themselves around 8, 9 years old. That's when they start to really, that's when their brain is becoming, their thoughts, their mind, their patterns are becoming more advanced and more controlled by them and their will and their choices. So again, that's something that wasn't taught to me, you know. That's something that wasn't taught to any of it. Like we were being held accountable for everything and anything. You know what I mean? Our parent, it was just reward and consequence. That's how we live. But as souls, that's not how we thrive. We don't thrive under a false reward and consequence system. We thrive when we're our natural selves, when we're being ourselves, when we're being the individual, but realizing that it's one consciousness. And then everything we're supposed to do is supposed to pour back into that. So this is the thing. Then you get further conditioned because you mix in entertainment, you mix in influence, you mix in bad neighborhoods, you mix in drug. Like, it's a lot working against somebody's spiritual journey. But all throughout your life, as long as you're breathing air, you have a chance to change your direction. So that's the same thing. Just because you got told for so long that maybe telepathy or clairvoyance or telekinesis or any kind of spiritual inclination or foretelling, you got told for so long that it was sin or it was wrong or it was a lie or it was fantasy or it was made up. But as you get new information, you have a chance to recollect. You have a chance to start new. You have a chance to say, oh, okay. It's you can say it's God giving it to you. The to me, the difference between like the two things is just who are you praying to is the thing that I think is most important. Are you praying to Lucifer? Or are you praying to some demon or some dark force or some dark entity, or are you praying to God? Because you're going to sin and make mistakes and do bad shit regardless, right? Nobody's coming out of here clean. I got news for you. If we're believing in God and the word, nobody's walking out of here clean. So as long as you got air in your body and you're here and you're present, you have a chance to write your course. It don't matter if you die the day you write your course, you have a chance. And it's a lot of it is just miseducation. So you're just stripping down things that were never yours anyway and saying, I got my gifts from God. I didn't get it from Lucifer. God didn't abandon me, and because he's always here when I need to talk. I know proof that God has followed me. So Lucifer is just staking claim over works that aren't his in the first place. Then when all that negativity, all the negative stuff starts to hit you, and you hit consequence and consequence and consequence when you were just way, way up here feeling good about yourself, now you start to learn the tricks. Now you start to see the tricks of what can happen in the darkness versus when you just walk full in the light. That's why, me anyway, I talk about shadow work, because that's what that is. It's getting into alignment, stripping down, okay, what part of this about me is conditioned? Let me take it off. What part about me is something that I really feel conviction on, and I just been too afraid to stand on or stand by, or I've been like, I question myself too much. There you go. So like, I need to put that on now. Okay, what else about me is a construct or a system that isn't real, that's a forced thing. All right, I'm gonna take that off. And this is like a lot of what we do through life. And you'll see the same in friendships. I know plenty of people, including myself, that had lots of friends, was once upon a time popular and could talk to anybody. And over the years, as we age, you're usually left with one or two really good friends, maybe three, you know what I mean? But most genuine people aren't going to reach the end of their walk and have friend after friend after friend that they're so personally involved with. Because for one thing, you don't have the time to even put the love and care into that many relationships. That's first and foremost. So it's just a superficial affiliation. And then on top of that, the odds of you both making it through all your changes, evolutions, shadow work, spiritual warfare, your journey, all your ebbs and flows of life, the odds of two individuals just making it all the way down that walk and still being eye to eye, side to side at the end of it is statistically, it's just incredible. And it's a lot of it is like choice, acceptance, understanding. Like, hey, I know my friend went through some stuff, but I went through some stuff too. I'm still going to be your friend. I'm still going to support you. It's more so like the constructs that I want to break away from, or the constructs that somebody else wants to break away from. And in therapy, they'll tell you that everybody's at a different level at all different places, right? So you can't expect, like a lot of times, whoever you're in a relationship with, they're going to be catching up to you in one walk, and you're going to be trying to catch up to them in another walk. And that's natural. If you work together and stick together, you can accelerate that process, and that's how you elevate those around you. That's how you bring the crowd up. But if you're broken, insecure, conditioned, and you go through these differences with your spouse or your best friend or whoever, or your mom or your dad or whoever, brother, sister, you'll take it as personal war, personal attack. So that's where you get the dysfunction, instead of the understanding, the love, the compassion, the realizing I'm flawed over here, you're flawed over there, I'm good over here, you're good over there. If we come together, we can help each other out, right? And that's why I feel like as society, we've become super selfish because we don't want to put the time or the work in to go through it, to elevate others and to allow them through cooperation and being able to be corrected to elevate us. Because that's a lot of it. A lot of people can't stand correction. A lot of people can't stand to be wrong. They think they're right. No matter what they say, they're always right. They're always right. They're always right. Right. So if you first know and go into things thinking, I could be wrong about this, but, or let me find out more information about this before I get into this conversation with this person, or let me be understanding. Let me go back in my past and recall a time where I might have been sitting in their same seat. This is the clarity that you get when you mesh your spirit and your flesh together and understand that both exist together as one while you're here. And that's your best chances towards success, peace of mind. And I'm not talking about financial success because I don't care about that. I'm talking about in the way you feel and the way you think and the way you move throughout your day. This enmeshment, personally, is what got me there. And that's what I think is required for success. Same thing, shadow work, removing the lies, removing the labels, removing all the stuff that's done nothing but hinder us as a species, as a race, not just as an individual, right? So that's how I see things. And I feel like when you honor your gifts and you aren't ashamed of them and you don't care what other people say or think, you don't care what they believe, you don't care what their book tells them about it, you remove yourself from it. You have understanding for that other side. Like, I hear what you're saying. I understand. I can see how you could say that. It's like I said in my last video, like in the Bible, it says not to seek knowledge, not to practice this, not to do that, not to do this. But then it also says be Christ-like. Christ is within you. God's spirit dwells within you. So everybody's interpreting things, right? I believe God sees the heart. That's why that's the focus. That's why that's where you call God into. So I'm not going to worry so much. You're worrying too much. As long as you know that in your heart, you're trying your best to be a good person. As long as you know that in your heart, you're not using your intention, your will, and your gifts for evil pursuit, with an evil conscience, with an evil mind. As long as you know that you're trying to heal, you're trying to protect, you're trying to awaken, you're trying to align your spirit and your flesh. Doesn't matter. Because if you spend your life trying to please others, you're always going to be following something else. You're always going to be getting drugged along, never feeling like you've hit the nail for the group. Like, damn, y'all just changed last week. Now y'all changing again. Hold on. Let me mentally prepare myself for all this. Because that's what society does. It drags people. It drags people in directions. That's why they implement division, because that's a direction. You go that way, we go this way. I'm just saying. So, in my personal opinion and my personal experience, I think the bigger deal is that if you are going to be aware, or if you do believe in these things, these gifts, if you are going to try to grow them, sharpen them, utilize them, find out more about them, just make sure that you keep God first. Make sure you take breaks. Make sure you keep yourself in good spirits. And when you feel bad, don't, be human, right? Remain human. You still have the human element that you have to serve to be here. So don't forget about that. Don't forget about yourself. Don't forget about the fun and the simplicity of your relationships as well. It's not just a 24-hour chase, chase, chase. You'll get burnt out. And if you weren't crazy before, you can make yourself go crazy because it's a lot of stress if it's important to you. To me, the divide between darkness and light and the divide between good and evil has always been kind of like my biggest thing that I've been stuck on, mostly in our systems. And telepathy, clairvoyance, telekinesis, and things of that nature, abilities, have been held hostage by the system. It's one of the many things that they've held hostage. So just know that. So as this information is starting to come out, where people are talking about these things more openly, try to be kind and understanding, compassionate, and tolerant. All the things that you want. Because don't you want the same? So try to remember that. Because what side of advancement do you want to be on? Because if you're not aware of it, you don't know how to work on it, you're not working on it. And you're limiting yourself. And why else are we here? Just for a minute. Stop, close your eyes, meditate, take some time to yourself, and fantasize and think about what it would be like to have these abilities. And think as if you do. And then think about what that would make you feel like if you got to witness it for yourself. It's literally one of the most freeing things in the world when you stop clinging only to the flesh. So just keep that in mind, and I hope you all have a good day.